can burn. I'm keeping my lamp full, waiting on the bridegroom. Cause when the kingdom comes, say I wanna be ready.
A channel where we look at different issues from an Israelite point of view. And we're going to continue on with our Red Letter Bible series, where we look at the words of Christ in the New Testament.
Okay, so today we're going to be looking at Matthew chapter 8, verses 19 and 20.
Okay.
Now, Christ only speaks in 20, but we're doing 19 for context.
Okay.
Because without it, it would make no sense. And with it, it still kind of makes no sense. But that's neither here nor there. We said we were going to do this, so let's get on it.
Okay.
Matthew chapter 8, verse 19. And a certain scribe came and said unto him, Master, or I will follow thee whithersoever thou goest.
And 20.
And Jesus saith unto him, The foxes have holes, and the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man hath not where to lay his head.
Okay.
And then after that, we go on to a different topic. So,
right. So we'll talk of that one next time. But okay, let's talk about this one.
This one, when I first read it, I had to do some thinking, because I was like, what the hell does this mean? He asked a question and Christ rambled, and yet they felt fit to put it in the Bible.
Okay, all right. So let's assume it's not the ramblings. It's not
Right.
just ramblings.
So
okay.
then I had to say, okay, well, it's in here, so it has to mean something. So
Right.
What?
This is a good one. I mean, if you think about it, so with what's been going on, Christ is coming to a new city, right? Just a little bit ago, he healed a person on the outskirts of the city. He comes into the city, deals with the centurion and his servant, right? Heals this person heals the centurion's servant from afar. And then he, in that same hour, is brought many a person who is possessed.
No, yeah, then we deal with possessed people, right?
Deal with these possessed people. And now we have this scribe who walks up to him and says, I'm going to follow you wherever you go.
Right. So I had to look at this and get some context and try to remember what's going on in the world at this time.
Right.
So we have a scribe. And what is a scribe? It is a person who is learning or being taught. And so they're being educated. And they're being educated in the church, because this is a time where the church ruled everything.
Right.
You know, it set the laws, it did the punishments, the judgments. So this is a person that is being taught the laws and all of that stuff through the church.
Right.
And he calls Christ, he says to Christ, teacher or master. So he is going up to Christ and saying, okay, I know that you have this wisdom, and I want to follow behind you so that you can teach me.
Right.
And then Christ, I said that all messed up. Christ says, foxes have holes, and the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man hath not where to lay his head.
Okay.
And I was like, well, what does him asking to be taught by him have to do with this? So I was like, okay, so the temple or the church is the place of the Most High, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is his home. And right now, the scribes and the Sadducees are living in that home.
Okay.
And yet Christ is on the outside of that home.
Okay.
And so if you look at his ministry, you see that most of the time he has nothing to do with the church at all. And so that seemed kind of weird to me because I was wondering, is he telling this person that his home, which is the church, is not a place for him anymore, or that there's something wrong with this place, therefore he can't go there, or he can't be there, or it's been taken away from him.
Okay, I can follow you with that logic. I can follow you with that. Now, I did a little research on my own. Okay, did a little research on my own, and one of one of the things that I came up with, or while I was looking this up, some teachers of Scripture have brought up the point that yes, this first off, the scribe is a learned person, as you said just a moment ago.
Right.
He's a learned person, and he just walks up to Christ and says, "I'm going to follow you." And some people have really pointed to that fact that he just walked up to Christ, not no introduction, none of the proper way to do it. You know, if we think back with the centurion, which was just a few moments ago, the centurion goes to
Elders.
goes to elders and says, "Hey, this is what I'd like. Can you take this message that way?"
Yeah.
Where this guy just rolls up and says, "This is what I'm going to do." And so the people who look at this, other people who talk about this particular verse, point to that fact that maybe it was because of how proud he was.
Okay.
You know, that Christ doesn't really address what he is trying to say. That's first. Another thing that I found while I'm looking at this, which goes along a little better with what you're talking about, is Christ saying to this person that I don't have anything. There's not going to be any fame in following me. There's not going to be any material gain in coming with me.
Okay.
You know, saying, so someone says, I know that you have power, so I'm going to follow you. And the response is, you're not going to gain any material wealth. You're not going to have a home. You're not going to have any of that kind of stuff by following me.
Right.
You know, so those are a couple of ways that people have looked at this. And the reason they say that is because, so the scribe says, "I'll follow you." Christ gives a response, and then we never hear from that scribe again.
Right. It just moves on, like, from this part, as if it doesn't. It's irrelevant. You know, it's like this thing happened, and we're not even going to discuss or go over this anymore. It's just moving on to the next issue, next thing. But so when I look at these scribes and I look at these Sadducees, because I've read ahead in the book, I know that Christ is fighting against these people.
Right.
I know that we have a king who is not even an Israelite, that he was appointed because we're under Roman rule at this time. And I know that people in the church that are supposed to be the Levites, some of their positions have been appointed. It's
Right.
not just Levites in the church. So I feel like the church had really been torn down. The physical structure was still there, but the purpose of it was gone. You know, God was no longer inside that building.
Right.
You know, when you read later on, it tells you that these people were worshiping the sun god. You know, they were speaking the truth. They were reading from the book, but secretly they were worshiping a different god, and they were making up rules and things that went outside of the Most High's will. They had decided that they were a group that didn't have to answer to anyone but themselves. So I feel like Christ in this point is making mention of that. Yes, that building is there. Yes, these people have these titles. Yes, they're saying these things, but it's not really a place where the Most High is anymore. So Christ does his ministry outside of this place, because the church is now with us. It's with the people, not necessarily in that building. And another thing, when I read this, it made me think of, I know what these words say, but it kept making me think of a Bible verse where the Most High is saying that you all have all of this stuff, but you have not made me a home. And the reason why things aren't going really good for you is because you haven't fixed a place for me. And this church was here, things were going bad for the Israelites, but the God wasn't really in their hearts. He wasn't at home with them. And so we were going through these trials, and later on, of course, we know it gets worse. So I'm just going to read the verse that it made me think of. It's in Haggai 1.
Mm-hmm. You know where it is?
I don't want to read the whole thing, so these people say, okay. In Haggai 1, I'm just going to start at verse 2, because I'm not exactly sure the point where it is exactly. It says, "Thus speaketh the Lord of hosts, saying," Haggai 1, chapter 1, verse 2. "Thus speaketh the Lord of hosts, saying, This people say, the time is not come, the time that the Lord's house should be built. 3. Then came the word of the Lord by Haggai the prophet, saying," 4. Do this for me. "It is time for you, O ye, to dwell in your chiseled houses, and this house lie waste.
5.
Now therefore, thus saith the Lord of hosts, consider your ways.
6.
Ye have sown much, and bring in little. Ye eat, but ye have not enough. Ye drink, but ye are not filled with drink. Ye clothe you, but there is none warm. And he that earneth wages to put it into a bag with holes."
8.
7.
Oh, sorry, 7.
"Thus saith the Lord of hosts, consider your ways.
8.
Go up to the mountain and bring wood and build the house, and I will take pleasure in it, and I will be glorified, saith the Lord.
9.
Ye looked for much, and lo, it came to little, and when ye brought it home, I did blow upon it. Why, saith the Lord of hosts? Because of mine house that is waste, and ye run every man unto his own house.
10.
Therefore the heaven over you is stayed from dew, and the earth is stayed from her fruit.
11.
And I called for a drought upon the land, and upon the mountains, and upon the corn, and upon the new wine, and upon the oil, and upon that which the ground bringeth forth."
12.
No. Sorry, mouse scrolled. "And upon men, and upon cattle, and upon all the labor of the hands."
12.
Then Zerubbabel the son of Shealtiel, and Joshua the son of Hosadek, the high priest, with all the remnants of the people, obeyed the voice of the Lord their God, and the words of Haggai the prophet, as the Lord their God had sent him, and the people did fear before the Lord. So, in this, you have men had built their homes and gotten their stuff back together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some bad things had happened. God had given them time. They not only had homes, but they had chiseled homes, so houses made of stones. They were doing really well, while God's house laid in ruins because they hadn't considered to make that a point for them, to put him first. And so the Most High is upset. And he says, the reason why things aren't going as well for you as it could be is because you haven't put me first. You haven't brought me to my place amongst you, right? So now we look at this verse where Christ is saying that these people have, the foxes have dens and the birds have nests, but I don't even have a home. And I think, yeah, the building is there, but God being in the midst of all of that isn't present, and people aren't considering that while they're trying to live their lives and do their daily tasks. They're allowing evil to take purchase and rule their lives because that's easier.
And you got all that from that one line.
Okay.
No,
leave me
that's
alone.
fine. I mean, it's fine. It's cool. I got it. That's how it's supposed to work. Okay, all right. I'm not knocking it. I'm with you. I don't see anything against that. I see what you're saying. You just got a lot out of that one line. Way to go. Okay. Now, I want to take a different tack myself for just a second.
Okay.
Because as you know, when I look it up, I start looking up the words, the individual words that are used.
Right.
Right. So, with this being a slide or being a way to explain something to the scribe who had walked up and said something to him, I wondered to myself why he used he could have said animals have places. Mm-hmm. He could have said that, but he didn't. He uses foxes and he uses birds.
Right.
So I went back and I looked up foxes, and when I was looking up foxes, it brought this line to me, and I've got to ask you to read it
Okay.
because you're so much better at it than me. So if you don't mind, read this line for me real quick. These 3 lines.
Ezekiel 13:3-5.
Right.
3. Thus saith the Lord God, woe unto the foolish prophets that follow their own spirit and have seen nothing. 4. O Israel, thy prophets are like the foxes in the deserts.
5.
Ye have not gone up into the gaps, neither made up the hedge for the house of Israel to stand in the battle in the day of the Lord.
Okay, so see, he says, foxes have homes, but earlier in Ezekiel, they use foxes as a way of saying that the prophets are foolish. They're wandering around, not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Okay.
All right, so that line came to mind about foxes, and then he also uses birds of the air have nests. So if you don't mind, read this one for me real fast. This is just one line in Ecclesiasticus. Am I saying it right?
Ecclesiastes 9:12. Verse 12. For man also knoweth not his time, as the fishes that are taken in an evil net, and as the birds that are caught in the snare. So are the sons of men snared in an evil time, when it falleth suddenly upon them.
Okay, so these are the 2 verses that kind of remind me of literally what you're talking about. I'm wondering, I wonder if he chose those animals specifically because of the relationships that are outlined earlier in the Bible. If you the idea is that you've been reading the Old Testament, so you know what's going on,
right,
throughout time. And this guy's a scribe.
Uh-huh.
Now think about this. This is a scribe well-versed, or should have been well-versed, in the Old Testament. Mm-hmm. Those particular animals would have meant something to him.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying, and, it kind of goes good with what I said, even though what I said may just be crazy. I don't know. That's what came to mind, so that's what I'm saying.
See, I also think the structure of this particular part of the story, where it being only 2 lines and never hearing anything else about that scribe. So you have this guy who walks up, and Christ says to him, reminds him, and I think it can be taken multiple ways. Is he one, reminding him that the temple at this point isn't really a home for the Most High? It's been polluted by other things. Is he saying to the scribe, hey, yeah, maybe you'll follow me, but you're not gonna get material benefit out of this? Or is he saying, you're like the prophets of old and haven't been doing what you should have been doing?
Right.
You should be doing other things.
Or maybe he's saying all of those things
In one line.
Yeah. I didn't. At first, I kind of wanted to skip it, but then I thought, it's here for a reason, So it does have meaning. Now, these are the meanings we got from it. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. Um, Either way is fine, but it is important that we look at it. So, you know, if you look at it and you see something else, please let us know. You know, write us something and tell us, oh, your stuff was stupid. This is the real. So, because you know, that's the only way that we can learn is by looking at each other, and the Bible says that we should come together and be able to reason. So, you know, this is the reasoning that we got. If you have something that explains it better, please let us know. Let other people know, and maybe we can grow together in this journey.
Yeah, this one was really difficult because you only have 2 lines to work with. I mean, it's a very short, this is literally an encounter, and you know, the briefest of conversations. One person says one thing, Christ says something else, and that's it. I mean, that's all you get to work with out of this particular line. But I do think by going back and trying to look at the origins of the line, looking at what was going on at the time, and trying to understand it, you can get quite a bit out of this. As you brought out a moment ago, relating it back to the Haggai story, that's an amazing one. That was really good.
Well, thank you.
You know, so guys, thank you all so very much for taking the time out.
Unfortunately, it wasn't me. It's just what popped into my head. So.
No, that's a bit. That's how it works. I mean, you know, as you study and gain more and more understanding, that is the whole idea. Is that one line reminds you of another line, which reminds you of other things, which brings up more. You know. Anyway, thank you all so very much for taking the time out to listen. As she said a moment ago, please write us something. Let us know what you think. That's the only way that we can all grow. Do you have anything else?
Kwame Yasharala.
Bye.
I had to cut them off. Had to cut them off.